In this video, I'm going to explain the 10 things that I did to stop BioSteel from losing $15 million a month and make it profitable in 4 months. Number one, cutting the extra fat. We streamlined the workforce. So what we did right off the hop was we brought 0 employees back from BioSteel. It was only me, Clark right there, Dave Carcamo, which runs our marketing, and Leslie, who runs our IT. So that was number one. Do you want to add anything to that? There's not really a whole lot to add. Now we have retail. We've got a couple guys from retail, or a small team of retail. We've got 2 in logistics. And what else? That's pretty much it. We're just leveraging.
Yeah, then a small kind of group of like virtual assistants and kind of like some other like marketing staff.
That's right.
Like our graphics designer. Like there's a couple like people that are, I guess, in like shared services.
Yeah, we share
work on like the other companies as well.
Yeah. So for anybody watching this that doesn't know, I also own Canadian Protein and CanadianProtein.com. So Canadian Protein is the brand, CanadianProtein.com is the website. I started that brand as an e-commerce brand, and we share a lot of employees back and forth, even for the other stuff, like even the golf course, real estate, all that type of stuff. Number 2, consolidating logistics, which is also an ongoing process.
Yeah.
So when we first took over BioSteel, how many warehouses were there? Like 12?
12.
Something like that. So we're working on consolidating that. Long term, there might be a scenario where we break out the consolidation, maybe, because what we're seeing right now, if we have, for example, Costco West, when they order, shipping is how much? Double the cost. So it might actually make sense to, probably maybe not even, because we're shipping full truckloads, right? So it wouldn't even matter.
Yeah, so with full truckloads, shipping across the country is okay. A lot of the other like large guys, they'll ship by train. So we're gonna look into that as we grow more and more. If we're ever shipping like 10 pallets or 8 pallets or something like that, that's where you would need an LTL load, or like less than a truckload.
Yeah.
And there are options where you can actually house product in like Calgary, let's say, where the cost is a little bit cheaper and then the lead time is shorter.
Yeah.
I almost don't want to do that because I feel like it's going to add like logistical complexity, and then open up room for errors. And on already something so thin, if you have these errors, it can be like detrimental. So I would rather have even like a little bit higher of a cost and just eat it, ensure that it's under our control and we know it's not going to fuck up.
For sure. And that's essentially what we're looking at right now. We're looking at consolidating. It's still an ongoing process, but we figured it out. We're working with some great people. Restructuring the marketing plan. So as a lot of you probably know, BioSteel in the past, their whole marketing play was A-list athletes, high profile, pretty much everything. They focused on the epitome of, I don't even know, status, I would say maybe. They focused on status majority.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons that drove them into bankruptcy. We're taking a different approach. We don't need to build awareness anymore for the brand. The majority of people already know about this brand, and even our competitors at this point are even helping us build the brand at this point, because anytime, for example, when the NHL launched that Body Armor is becoming their, hydration partner, what happened? We also trended up because that story also involves us. So it's a very interesting situation with respect to the marketing budget, but in the marketing strategy. So what we're going to be doing is, again, we're going to be taking a more grassroots, we're going to be taking a more economical approach, and I feel we're going to go deeper versus, we're going to go with depth versus width now. We're going to be focusing on the middle and bottom end of the funnel, whereas the previous ownership for BioSteel focused on the top end of the funnel, NHL, McDavid, Bedard, like all these high-end athletes. Yeah. And we're not necessarily going to go that route anymore. We're going to be focusing on, we've got actually a couple cool projects that maybe we'll get into in a different video. But
rather than like talking about like the specific projects, why don't you explain like why we're approaching it this way?
Why don't you explain? So you seem to have already the thought process going here.
Yeah, because I think the biggest thing that we realize is that when you're going after those, let's say for example an entire league or a team or a like A-level celebrity pro player, that you're not able to get like a direct ROI measurement on the money that you're spending, right? And so because we didn't know where the revenues were going to fall, we were nervous in the sense of signing up for all these large multi-million-dollar contracts where we didn't know if the marketing budget could necessarily afford it from day one. But when you look at, for example, like a grassroots approach, or let's say that you have a like a social media influencer that has a link where if they use a code, they get a certain amount of kickback. We can directly measure the performance of whatever that project is, right? So it allows us to be like very scalable in terms of how much we're dedicating towards these things. The other thing is that when it comes to like who's actually buying the product, like the pro level teams that we're seeing, like they love the product, but they're not the ones that are necessarily like the majority of the buyers. They're mostly like younger athletes that are playing at a high level, and it's the parents and the families that are buying the product, right? So with the grassroots approach, you're actually directly targeting the people that are making those purchasing decisions and going to Costco every single weekend and buying like the BioSteel products.
Something else that we're going to be doing as well is or a different approach, or before I even talk about that, something else that's really interesting for people to realize, and you might not know this, but there's a lot of research coming out that higher level endorsement does not work as much as it once did in the past. And we can have Connor throw up a couple resources that he pulled in another video, even in our marketing deck, to substantiate this claim. So it's the same thing of like, you know, you get these high level A-list celebrities or A-list athletes. They just don't do a whole lot for your brand, and it doesn't move the needle as much. It just, what it does is it reduces your bottom line, really. It does build awareness or help build awareness, but it doesn't necessarily convert, if that makes sense.
And I think it depends on where you are in the life cycle of your business. Like if you're a brand new business that's just come out, you have something that's super cool and new, and you're getting some sort of like endorsement like that, or pro athlete that skyrockets the awareness of your brand, it can be valuable, right? But like right
which
now,
is what happened, right? Like the NHL put BioSteel on the map,
and so it was.
It made it one of
correct. It was effective at the time of accomplishing what they were trying for it to accomplish. It's just it was overextended in terms of like not of signing up for too much financially with not enough revenues to justify it. Whereas now what we did, I was talking to one of the guys last night, like we, in the first 3 or 4 months, we spent $0 on marketing. Like not a single marketing dollar, because we wanted to see,
I remember you talking about that.
Well, where is the organic demand falling post-bankruptcy, post all the negative press, post like the old BioSteel entity owing all these different people and companies money, where is it going to land? And then so essentially we wanted to see, okay, this is where the revenues are stabilizing. Based on that, we can allocate this amount towards marketing. How do you want to spend those marketing dollars?
Next thing, what we did, we focused on the most profitable accounts. So the way that I approached this deal was, in the event that 0 retailers actually came back on board, it was still a great deal based off of the e-commerce business and based off the Amazon business. That was it. So then what was the natural succession of the next focus beyond website, Amazon? Costco for sure. That was like really our main focus, because we already knew that we had all of the e-commerce and Amazon on lock. That's not going to go away. So we just simply, all we did was we went down the line and focused on the retailers that brought in the most money. And then we continued down that line. And then it's something else that we also did was focused on having our products in each channel. So, you know, Costco being club, you know, for example, early on, Sobeys still was very, you know, hyped up about bringing back the product, and 7-Eleven was like really hyped up about bringing back the product in convenience and gas. So it was really those 3 that very early on expressed a lot of interest, and then everyone else just was like, no, we want it, we want it, we want it, we want it, we want it. But it took a little bit of time for them to come around, and I understand why, because they didn't know what was going to happen with the brand. But that was what we did too. We focused on, we had like this succession plan of, not a succession plan, help me out here, what, like a linear plan of who brought in the most money.
I can't think of the word you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about, right? There was a plan of who brought in the most money that we were going to focus on, and that makes sequential, yes. So like a sequential plan of, you know, Costco, who was the next guy that brought in the most money. We're going to focus on that, but then also we focus on having our brand in every channel available. Next, focus on selling through the existing inventory, because with the deal we assumed a lot of inventory, and instead of turning the taps on with manufacturing, we wanted to focus on selling what was already available. That's just a no-brainer. You want to add anything to that? I mean, there's not really anything to add to that.
No, I think the reason why is because when looking at all of the categories of expenses, every expense is a variable expense, with the exception of the warehousing when we first took over. And the warehousing was costing so much money that when we looked at all the different expenses, that was really the only one that was posing a financial risk.
Right now, warehousing and logistics is by far the most expensive, or the biggest expense that we have, like by a long shot, actually.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even close.
Yeah, and very disproportionately to what, like the percentage that it's taking up as when compared to revenue is just disproportionately higher than what it should be. So that is the category of expense that we have to be able to get down to a reasonable level to have the financial sustainability of the business.
Yeah. Something else that I focused on, or I wanted our guys here to focus on, was cleaning up the website. Mm-hmm. The website, it does not perform well. There was a lot of even pixels missing. There was a lot of back end things that was just, it was just a mess, and it's still a process of we're still fixing it, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things that they did that we don't like, and I feel us being, I would call ourselves e-commerce experts. We built Canadian Protein based on an e-commerce platform, and we built it to the brand that it is today solely based on e-commerce. So I would consider ourselves e-commerce experts, but what they did, I do not like. There's a couple things, I'm not going to get into specifics, but in terms of the actual website, the way that it functions, it was a lot of customized work. This is one thing that I do not like. Yeah. They engaged a third-party developer to change a lot of things, that in order to change things back or revert back to its original state, we can't unless we engage them. Mm-hmm. And the way that these e-commerce guys will do it is they'll build in things so that it makes it very difficult for someone else to come in and back out the changes or whatever that they did. So I don't like that. Yeah. And previous BioSteel, the previous ownership, they didn't do any of this type of stuff in-house. It looks like they engaged third-party people all over the place, and it was just, there were so many apps, and I'm not talking about the expense of the apps on the store was egregious. How much was it?
Think about the reviews app alone. There's review apps out there to have post product reviews for customers that are
$20
15,
a day.
$20. No, a month.
Or a month,
to sign up for that subscription. Their app was $170,000.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that to serve the same purpose, why overspend that kind of way?
Yeah.
And I think for anyone watching this that wants to start an e-commerce store, there's nothing wrong with using a very generic template and having very minimal amount of customization. You think about Canadian Protein right now.
Yeah.
Canadian Protein is based on a new generic template that we've essentially just made it look good, but there's no custom coding with the exception of maybe 2 things on there.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I can't stress this enough. That allows you to, when things change and the market changes, website design changes, SEO requirements change, and they change often. Mm-hmm. It allows you to shift to a new platform, to new technology so much faster when you don't have all this third-party bullshit, when you don't have all these expensive apps that really lock you in. They were probably spending $500,000 on their website with all of the apps that we ended up canceling and all of the services that they were paying for. Egregious. We spend maybe $10,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Maybe $10,000 a month. And our website does, I don't even know, 10 times what there's something stupid. Strategic segmented email marketing. So that's also something that the previous ownership did not do, that we are doing. We have the ability to do it. We already do it for the other brands, and it does extremely well. If you can develop a very robust email marketing plan and have a decent list out there, segmenting out people that, give me an example of a segmentation, segmenting people that have historical purchases of say, for example,
RTDs versus tubs, like something like that.
And then, say we have a sale on RTDs this week or whatever, like segmenting out those types of people, or even say, for example, segmenting out flavors that, do very well in very specific regions. Give me another example.
I think
here.
even just more generically, it's understanding each of the different avatars of who buys the product, right? Like someone that's buying this 100 serving tub for $95 regular retail price is someone that's looking for, like, they love the product already. They're already like an avid consumer, but they want the lowest cost per serving possible.
For sure.
Whereas somebody that's buying like a small box of stick packs, like someone that's buying this, they are going to be paying a higher price per serving, but they want the convenience factor, right? They want that in stick packs.
What I'm saying is like, okay, I get what you're saying. What I'm saying is, how do you actually get to understand that avatar?
Right.
Is what I'm saying.
Correct. Well, so it's looking at like buying behaviors.
Yeah, buying behaviors.
So someone that's buying this, you want to design, for example, the actual marketing the email campaign.
I see where you're going. Yeah.
Around like, hey, we're having this sale on this product at a lower price per. This is a new price per serving versus the old price per serving. Maybe compared to the competitors in the space, right? It's very like price focused. Whereas like this marketing campaign would be something like, oh, you can like throw it in your gym bag. You can put it in your purse on your way to your son's soccer game or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's like having a different style of marketing depending on like the type of buying behaviors.
For sure.
The way that Dave, our marketing manager, broke it down to me was also, and like the way that I understand it was, also not just I guess curating the marketing towards someone like that, but curating where we're sending the emails to so that we get a higher open rate, we get a better click-through rate, because that type of stuff matters. And like, for example, our Klaviyo account, it actually acts, there is an algorithm, and it actually acts a little bit like social media, where if you consistently post good content that's being watched, sent, shared, saved a lot, then your open rates will improve, and you'll be less likely to be, even clicked as spam in your, with Gmail or whatever. You'll have a higher success rate with the email boxes, flagging you as spam or, whatever, right? It's gonna tell them that you want to see this, this content from this email segmentation and this email platform from us. That's what it does. Implementing a customer service strategy. So this is something that we talked about, because building a brand is, especially rebuilding this brand, we're going to be focusing on repeat buyers and offering a great experience. And this is why we were focused on bringing even shipping in-house and customer service. We run all of our customer service in-house because we can pivot quickly. We can offer customer service. Part of, I feel, great customer service is acting quick, and that's something that allows us to do that when we have this type of stuff in-house. Having a very strategic, solid customer service plan was key in, I feel, the success of rebuilding BioSteel to the point that it even is today, because even with the website sales, like, they're skyrocketing right now, right? So all we did was we took the customer service plan from, say, for example, Canadian Protein, and we just like shifted it over to BioSteel. It's exactly the same thing.
What's that?
Yeah, like literally replicated it.
Yeah. So what are, give me like a couple points that we like really use for customer service with respect to.
Well, for one thing, we tried like standardizing a lot of it. We tried essentially categorizing 99% of all common complaints that come in, and we looked at, okay, what is the best way of responding to this, and we created like a templated response that then is sent back. And what we were finding is that it allows us to essentially, because like you just said, good customer service is mainly based on responsiveness. How fast are you responding to these people? So if you have all these templated responses, it allows you to actually move through the tickets a lot faster. And then if it ever becomes nuanced or whatever, then you're able to have somebody step in and actually create a much more custom approach. But it gives you like good customer service overall. I would say that the one thing that I want to try implementing more is a lot more like self-serving tools. I feel like we could have more of that, but that just takes time.
Yeah.
There was one thing that you were mentioning at that, like during that I thought of, and I was like, fuck, this is like a key point. I can't remember exactly what it is. I'll come back to it if I remember. Hiring key people. Again, when we took over BioSteel, we brought in 0 existing BioSteel employees because we didn't really know who fucked it up. So I wasn't comfortable bringing in people that I did not know who was responsible for bringing it into bankruptcy. So, but as we rebuilt it, we brought in extremely key people, and these key people are essentially, they're extremely skilled at what they do, but they're even better at actually executing, I would say. Whereas I felt the previous culture was extremely good at putting their ideas into a plan, but never executing those ideas. Would you agree?
Yeah. And it's they're executing without us having to handhold or babysit or micromanage, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, we know that if we're not overseeing someone directly, they're getting it done and getting it done correctly. And we know that if there's ever any problems, that we'll find out about it. I think that's one of the key things, is that like we can't bring in people that we're gonna have to micromanage, or that they're only working when we're like over their shoulder, that you know that they're getting shit done.
Yeah.
And you're seeing it happening, right? Like I want to make sure that even if we're not like hand holding somebody, that like I'm seeing the impact they're having on the business through the shipments that they're booking, through the customer service tickets that they're answering, through the posts that they're making, the emails they're sending out, whatever it is. And it has to be that way. Each person has to have that sense of ownership.
Yeah, for sure.
It also allows us to move extremely quick without having to handhold people. And I can't tell you how much of a competitive advantage that is being able to move as fast as humanly possible in whatever industry you're in. Last thing is we push limits here, I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like I push you, you push these guys. I will not accept mediocrity, and I expect everybody here to be an absolute grinder, an absolute hustler, and I feel like we absolutely breed that culture here.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you don't have that in you, like you're just gonna be naturally weeded out here, and you're not gonna last.
Yeah.
I won't put up with it. Like I don't believe in the whole empathy thing and all of that type of stuff, and like maybe that works for some, but at the end of the day, I think one of the key factors in our work environment, and even so, last night we attended an MBA gala because we're bringing in some MBA students from our local university, and they had a keynote speaker there, and they were talking about a lot of like fluffy shit. And I feel like there's 2 things that keep people around here. Number 1, I feel like we do epic shit. And number 2, I was like, did I say number 1 already? Number one, we do epic shit. And number 2, we pay well for the people that deserve it. That's what I feel like is enough. Mm-hmm. Because if you're challenged and you're doing like amazing work and like cool shit, which I feel we do here, like these are cool industries to work in, and every day is different. Every day is epic. Every day we're like solving problems like at record pace. I feel like if you can build that type of culture and it's like nonstop, but it's also fun. Like I'm in a fucking tank top right now. Like I don't care what people work. I just care that they're effective. And based off of your effectiveness, and if you're very difficult to replace, you better believe you're going to be making a ton of money here. And that's it.
I feel like that's the culture that we breed here. Yeah. Would you agree?
And it's linked to how you perform.
100%.
Yeah. Like the one example of the guy last night that worked for old BioSteel, and it's like, oh yeah, I was a sales rep, and I was
that's right. Yeah, somebody, an MBA student.
I was making a salary, and I could just do nothing and I would still get paid, or I could do a whole bunch of stuff and I would get paid the exact same amount, so I would just do nothing. And I'm like, well, that's just one example in a team of hundreds of people that like that just breeds a culture of like you're not going to be moving fast as an organization.
That's actually why
you're not actually going to be progressing.
That's actually wild. One of those MBA students like actually worked for BioSteel before.
Yeah, and so it's like we want to directly incentivize people to be like, hey, like if you're doing a lot and getting a lot done, like you're going to be rewarded for it.
Yeah, very interesting.
Cool.
So that's how we turned it around in 4 months.
Boom.